Hi, Shita. Welcome. I'm so excited to be doing this with you while you're sitting in London and I'm in Mumbai.
Thank you so much for having me, Dave. Now.
Ishita, let's start off with your company by rotation, which is the largest fashion rental platform now in the UK. I know you've been named by Forbes for being successful 30 under 30. So, all these things we're going to cover. But let's start with your journey. You were born in Rajasthan and you grew up in Singapore. You've spent time in the US and the UK. Now, how does that shape your personality?
Yeah, I think of myself first and foremost as a global citizen. And then I really identify myself, and I am Indian. I still have an Indian passport to date, the only one in my family to do so, but I'm a very, very proud Indian. And then I think my mindset and the way that I make decisions, it's very Singaporean. We're very hardworking, we're very pragmatic. For us, it's all about the end result. And then finally, my time in the US and UK, where I came to for university, and I've been living in London since then. It's really made me, I would say, I guess, quite like, open minded and really, conscious of the fact that I want to build something that's global and not just for a particular country or a region. So, yeah, I think all of these sort of experiences living in these different continents and cultures has made me want to create a business that's very, yeah, it's like for everyone and anyone, for people from all walks of life, from all cultures, from all socioeconomic backgrounds. It's very, very important for me to build a very global and large business.
And you're really on track for that. But you started as an investment analyst. Um, and I think you've used that and made fashion almost an asset class by rotation. So tell me about how you started, why you started this company.
Yeah, I found it by rotation really as a first world problem. So, growing up in Singapore is
Yeah,
such a consumerist nation.
yeah,
Our two national hobbies are eating and shopping, and I definitely excelled in the latter. And when I was planning my honeymoon, which we know is like a trip of a lifetime,
yeah.
I was thinking about all the outfits that I wanted to wear, along with all the nice hotels that we were staying at, the nice restaurants we were going to, all the monuments and all of that, because we were going back to Rajasthan,
Yeah.
where I was born. And, I hadn't been back in over 14 years,
Wow.
because now my parents live in Singapore. So for me, home is Singapore. And also, my husband's not Indian. So I wanted to show him my roots and reconnect with them. So that's when I started thinking, hey, it'd be so cool to like borrow a wardrobe, like some outfits for this incredible holiday. And I started researching the global fashion rental landscape when there were no options in the UK, essentially. And that's when it became very clear to me, even all the existing options in US, China, India, Singapore, all of these large, well-known countries, they were all kind of very dated solutions. So they were all inventory heavy. They all had things that I would never want to wear or rent myself.
Yeah.
And none of them really cared about fashion and, sustainability whatsoever. They were all about a means to an end. And that's when this idea sort of started brewing into my mind. It wasn't actually until my honeymoon in mid and end February and beginning of March, 2019, that I witnessed a lot of textile waste in, these suburban hometowns that I was from. So just outside of Depur, there's a town called Pilvara. That's where I'm from. No reason to go there. It's where actual Rajasthani people live. It's not where tourists would go to. And I couldn't help but witness all this textile waste in, a state that is very well known for textiles, for its artisanship. Where people, large brands, luxury brands, create in India, and then go back and sort of put their own "made in France" and "made in Italy" tags. And yeah, I just couldn't help but feel I was part of the problem. I was buying all these, clothes in the Western world from all these sort of Western brands. I was wearing them less than 30 times, which apparently is the optimum number, but I'd say really that's the minimum number of times we should be wearing clothing. And then I was donating them to charities such as Oxfam and cancer research, only to then find out that 90% of our donations to these charities end up in landfills in African and Asian countries such as India. So I just couldn't help but feel I was part of this problem, this very linear model that we were seeing in, modern day fashion industry. So that's when I thought about this fashion rental idea, this gap that I was thinking about. And I thought about how I could actually create a community of people to share amongst themselves,
Yeah.
kind of like the Instagram of fashion rental or the Airbnb of fashion rental. And actually, we've just partnered with Airbnb earlier this week, which is an incredible milestone in the business,
Wow,
4.5 years.
congratulations. So when you say
Thanks.
you partner with them, what does that mean?
So we've actually launched a partnership together where if you're going abroad for a wedding, this summer season,
Yeah.
you will get a discount on your Airbnb and you'll get free rental credit to get your outfit from By Rotation. So it's really to take away the hassle from what can be really, really painful when you have to go for weddings abroad. So we're helping you
Oh,
kind of
that's
take away the financial
fantastic.
burden.
So essentially,
Thank
if I had a wedding to go to, let's say in London or somewhere around London, I could just come with my bags, and I could just get all my outfits from by rotation, choose them from before, and then sort of have this association with Airbnb where I'm staying there,
Exactly.
and I get a discount. That's actually really brilliant.
You'll see your outfit in the Airbnb, essentially, which
That's
is so cool.
that's a game changer. Um,
Thank you.
but tell me now about the number of users you have in your platform. And also, unlike other luxury resale and rental companies, yours is a peer to peer sort of model, where it's a lot more cost effective.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so correct. And it's so funny because my parents and their friends, their Indian friends were joking. Of course, your daughter's created a business which is very cost efficient.
Yes.
That's the Marvari in her, you know?
Yes.
And it's so funny because our business model is completely circular just from the way that it operates. It's a peer-to-peer model.
Yeah.
So that means I can lend out my clothes and I can rent from others as well. And
Yeah.
that's actually why we call it by rotation. So
Yeah.
you lend clothing, you lend your own stuff, and then
Yeah.
you rent from others. So it makes things very circular. It closes the loop within fashion itself. We've actually started seeing, more items, more categories being listed beyond fashion. So things like premium luggage, like Rimowa, Samsonite, those kind of things on the app. We've also seen maternity related items. So things like very high end prams, high-end baby carriers. It's really cool to see how our audience, which is, we have over 500,000 users on the app now in the UK and in the US. It's really interesting to see how they kind of view by rotation as beyond just fashion. And we're really kind of embracing that with all these categories that are being listed. We've built the world's largest shared wardrobe, so we have over 120,000 peer-to-peer items on the app listed by people of all walks of life, and they're worth over $60 million. So our inventory is valued at over $60 million, and we don't own any of it, which is also really cool.
That's amazing
And I
because
think
you're not
what's
real estate heavy in terms of warehousing. You're not buying any of these items. So you're not, your capital expenditure is relatively low. So really, you're using technology and reach to connect people. And you built this sort of back end and supply during COVID, right?
yeah,
When things were slow and you were creating all your systems at the time.
yeah. And I think that's the beauty of it. I mean, I remember because I founded it as a side hustle. I was still working full time at a hedge fund here in the UK. And it was just crazy because I thought, oh, I shouldn't have quit my job. I could have had my salary while I had my tabs open on my laptop about by rotation. But actually, it was great to fully focus on it because we used all this, I guess, downtime where people were stuck at home and, glued to their phones and their laptops by educating them about by rotation and by building the app further. So it's completely developed by us. And, we own all the IP and the technology around it. And we use this time to really build up the supply, so to get listings on the platform essentially. And then as soon as COVID restrictions came off, we saw demand just go off the charts, nothing that we ever imagined ever.
May I ask, so, post COVID, uh, demand for a lot of items in retail and luxury went through the roof. That's starting to come off in certain categories of retail, not in
Hmm.
travel, but definitely in retail and consumption, especially
Yeah.
in the UK and the US. Um, how what does that do for you? Does that actually lead to an increase in your business because people are renting rather than sort of buying, or is it affecting you as well?
Actually, we've really seen our market share grow over the last 4.5 years. And yeah, I think to a certain extent, we're definitely taking that away from these luxury platforms, be that the Farfetches and Matches of the world, which are now gone under, or even resale platforms where, people, instead of trading items that you buy just for 3 months, you buy them and then you resell them because you've already worn the bag enough, for example, people actually realizing that they can just actually rent it from each other. So we've definitely seen a huge grow in our market share, and I do believe it's probably impacted quite a few of these retailers. But I think I have a lot of question marks around the existing fashion industry. Just someone who doesn't belong and doesn't come from the fashion background. I always kind of wondered, how can we have so many brands? How can we have so many retailers that are all doing the same thing and so many departmental stores that are all doing the same thing? And it turns out that question that I had has very much come true in the past 12 months. There's all of these sort of e-com luxury retailers, Net-a-Porter, My Teresa, Matches, Farfetch, all of these guys who are undercutting each other and giving out discount codes, and eventually there had to be some casualties. So actually, I have a lot of questions around this whole production that's happening within the fashion industry. There's just too much. And I think we just need to rethink how we can actually produce fewer goods. Brands can have, fewer seasons, they can have fewer items in each season. And actually, with those quantities, they can actually just get people to share these items through rental and resale. So
But then
yeah, I
what
do
happens
see
to
that.
their numbers and their
But that's where we
multi-billion
can make
dollar
money.
valuations?
But that's where we show that, we're seeing people make 8x on a dress that they bought on sale. They made 8x on the full retail value. So instead of these brands selling these items for wholesale prices to, say, a Matches Fashion, why not they actually just rent out these items directly on the Buy Rotation app so that 10 different women can enjoy it and they can make more than 20% each time on the actual retail value of the item. So they're actually making 200% of the retail value
And that would
rather than
be
selling it to
amazing.
match.
But there's also the average consumer for the moment who wants to own that particular item and doesn't want to really rent it out or share it with other people. So there's still a mentality that exists amongst a lot of people where wearing someone else's clothes is a bit of a no no.
No, and I think that's definitely there. I was actually just on a panel yesterday with Clifford Chance, the Magic Circle law firm that was doing a South Asian Heritage Month event. And I had a similar question being asked by a fellow South Asian woman. And I think what's really there is, there's the generational sort of, stigma around it where, probably our grandparents and our parents are less, inclined to have something that's secondhand because there's a lot of like religious beliefs, cultural beliefs around secondhand, right? Like, oh, it, has someone else's energy around it, which I fully understand and appreciate. And then you've also got the other one, which is the hygiene aspect of it. Now, for us, that I was really surprised to see in the UK and US, the hygiene concerns have not really been something that have been of a hindrance to us. They haven't really been an obstacle. And I think it's come from the fact that people kind of understand that there's a rating and reviewing system. So if you receive something that wasn't clean, you'd obviously leave them a bad review, you'd get a full refund. There's also this obvious like kind of understanding that hey, even when you stay in a five-star hotel, the towels and the bed linen that you're using, they weren't just made for you. They've been dry cleaned to the highest professional standard because someone else has used that towel, even at the Four Seasons, and that's the truth. So I think there's definitely that kind of education and understanding in the UK and US that we've seen. I think it's definitely not there yet in the Asian continent. And that's another reason why, despite being from India and Singapore, I haven't actually rushed to launch by rotation in those countries.
Yes. Fair. That's a very fair cultural
You know what I think?
difference that exists for the
Like,
moment and hopefully will change and is
yeah,
changing even in these markets.
I think
Because,
what we've
yeah,
seen really help in the UK and US is celebrities and well-known people endorsing secondhand and saying, I'm wearing something that's rented. I'm wearing something that's secondhand. We've got Helen Mirren, who's lending out her wardrobe on Buy Rotation for charity. We've got Ellie Goulding, the famous singer, who's got her tour looks on the Buy Rotation app. So it's kind of really signaling to all the fans that, these influential people are also doing it. So why not me?
amazing. Okay, so quickly, the vision that you have for Buy Rotation. I know you've done some fundraising. So, what's the vision you have for the next 5 years? What do you expect growth to be? Do you think it will be a company that you would IPO or take to market? What are you thinking?
Yeah, so we are venture backed and there's some high growth targets that we've signed up to. And I think that really works for us because we are first and foremost a tech business. We're a marketplace that's very scalable. We launched by rotation in the US very quickly and very cost efficiently. So really my vision and mission is to continue to transform consumption for good and do that, globally. So we want to, continue to expand abroad. There's another market that I have in mind in the first half of 2025, which we'll be working on later in the year. And yeah, I mean, we really see ourselves, and we have been called the Airbnb of designer fashion and the Instagram of fashion rental. We've seen ourselves really going into the media sphere as well. We've done a lot of great brand partnerships, as I mentioned, just with Airbnb recently,
Yeah.
with Bumble, with Tanqueray Gin. So there's quite a lot of engaged people that use our
So,
app, and that's
collaboration really is key for you in this
yes,
business to grow your reach. And it's a clever way to increase your presence, the awareness of your brand, distribution by collaborating with others.
yes, yeah. And that's how we kind of like
Yeah,
engage each other's communities. So we
yeah,
leverage each other's communities
yeah,
as well, commercially speaking.
yeah.
It's great for engagement and it's great to get new eyeballs. But yeah, the vision and mission is to really go global. And, should that take form, the exit, should that take form as going to market and IPOing, or really even partnering with another brand or retailer or a secondhand platform. There's so many brands, so many great brands out there.
Yeah.
Vinted, for example, is one that comes to mind and will probably IPO later in the year. So we're keeping very close relationships with some of our, adjacent players in the space.
Fantastic. Um, Also, I'm sure luxury fashion houses and designers don't like you. How is the how is the environment when you first started? Because really, you do pose a threat in the near term. In the longer
Yeah.
term, it's a more sustainable way, and they will probably come on board. But
Yes.
in the near term, this is a threat.
Yeah, we definitely felt that right at the outset. There was a lot of, I suppose, people kind of ensuring that we aren't pulled into the circle. But I think in the UK, we've been very lucky that the editors, the fashion editors, the, sustainability editors, the tech editors have really kind of made a big noise for fashion rental and peer to peer in particular. We've got the sign off from the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, which has, done an entire study to show that peer to peer fashion rental is 60% more environmentally friendly than say any other rental model, and obviously the linear model of just consuming and buying and then you know throwing away essentially. So we've been very lucky to have the support of media and great sustainability organizations endorsing us. But yeah, I mean, there still is a lot of hesitation from brands, not even just designer brands, but even like independent designers. They don't like knowing that their stuff is available for rent on buy rotation. But that's really not up to them, right? I mean, stuff like that has been traded on eBay for the longest of time. So yeah,
No,
we
and let's
kind of have to
face it, I
talk.
mean, fashion and clothing. and apparel is the largest polluter in the world. And climate change has been at the center of most government conversations and policies. So, this is a great time for you to be in that business of sustainability, technology, fashion, and all of it. So, I'm really watching out for you. But
Thank you, Devna.
I also wanted to ask you, the whole culture of Indianness, for lack of a better word, has kind of exploded in the West. Indian fashion, Indians in real estate, business, influencers, across the board. Do you feel like you benefit from that in some way? How do you see the environment changing? Is it sort of palpable? The value that people see now in Indianness, if you will, food, even?
Yeah, I think people around the world, especially in the West, are realizing that there is large, considerable wealth in the Indian subcontinent, and also that there seems to be a growing middle class and upper middle class that is quite into things like going out, social media, lifestyle, fashion, hospitality and things like that. So I think they're realizing there's a huge audience that has been ignored, I think, in the last past decade. Again, I haven't really spent a lot of time growing up in India myself. I was only born there, but I do actually see a lot of influence coming on my channels, and it's something I'm personally very interested and excited by. It's why I'm the only one who still kept my Indian passport. I really want to be a part of the Indian growth story because I think there's so much that we deserve on the global stage. All this stuff that's made in India, but then has tags that actually pretend that they're made in France and Italy. That's something that very much bothers me. And I think we're finally getting a bit of the credit that's due. Even things like the recent wedding that we saw from the Ambanis, I think that's great for us because it showcases the fact that India is actually very, very, culturally wealthy. And it's got amazing fashion, it's got amazing food, it's got amazing hospitality, amazing entertainment. And all of that really came to light when, you had, well-known Western influencers attending these weddings and kind of helping promote that on their channels. I think that was great for us.
I,
Yeah, I'm very excited
I
to be,
agree. But your Instagram, in fact, I was just going to point out how important is brand Ishita, because you have a very vibrant sort of Instagram persona as well. In a day and age where fashion is everything from art to travel to so much else, even conversation, is that a concerted effort to sort of have brand Ishita also be an important integration with By Rotation as a company?
I think I struggle with that a little bit, and I know that personal branding can be very helpful when you're a consumer brand founder and CEO. Sometimes you see influencers actually creating complete companies because they have such a large following. For me, it's certainly been the inverse. I used to have a private account with less than 400 followers, all my fellow bankers and lawyers and consultant friends only. I didn't know anyone in the fashion industry. So I've actually built my network ground up myself in the last 4.5 years. And I think I struggle with that because I still very much enjoy my privacy, my holidays with my friends outside by rotation. Again, they're all these corporate women. So I think for me, I'm just trying to show my life as balanced as it is rather than actually having specific content that I've created for by rotation and for being a founder, for being a so called girl boss or whatever. I want to stay as authentic and true to me as possible because I do believe in the long game. And I want to make sure I'm building relationships that will last me even in my 40s and 50s. One of the things that I've started focusing more is really showing the intersection of lifestyle travel with fashion. So, I've started writing for a couple of luxury travel publications, which is super exciting for my own personal growth.
Fantastic. Lastly, the life of an entrepreneur is exciting, but it's really tough, especially when it comes to times of fundraising. I've had friends who've been in the space who've almost gone belly up, and then at the nth minute, the investor has committed and sort of given the fund. So that's a constant. Entrepreneurship is hard and is a 24/7 job for a lot of people. Um, in countries like India, in societies, um, failure is a tough one because there's an entire community surrounding you. Do you feel liberated, a little more liberated, living in the UK, about with regards to things like failure or setbacks and the hardship of entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't have experience building a business and growing up, in India, but in Asia, definitely, there's this huge sort of stigma around failing and people finding out about it, like even things like, what were your results? Oh, the whole class knows your results were not as good as you expected, and things like that. I think I remember feeling all those shameful things, but yeah, I think I feel freer living in London now for almost 14 years. I actually love to get rejected, be that by boys, back when I was dating, or investors, or jobs when I was applying for jobs. I think it really helps me understand who I am and what I bring to the table and who I'm not. And I think that's fine, that I think failing quickly, being rejected quickly, I think that's good for you because it helps you kind of get back on the horse and, tackle the next problem at hand. And yeah, and I think the key to it for me to avoid things like burnout has really been to remind myself that while by rotation is my life mission and everything that I've worked towards and come to the stage at, I still remind myself that actually the world is 4.5 billion years old. So how am I going to leave my mark? And I may not be able to, so I should at least do the best that I can and enjoy life while I still get to have it.
Good luck. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Devna. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.